Once upon a time, in a land far away, people spoke of fairies. Journey with me to take a closer look at folklore and the supernatural. Please join me for the Philly Ghost Hunt Professional Series. Watch Part 3 of Folklore, a closer look at the supernatural. An interview with Dr. Jeffrey Tolbert. We have had a wonderful discussion, and we're getting close to the end now. Can you tell me, tying this into popular culture, maybe some thoughts, maybe another story?
Well, the popular culture connection is very interesting and very complicated. You know, quite a lot of horror cinema and other forms of film and literature that deal with the supernatural are purely fictional. But there's also quite a lot which very importantly and very prominently calls itself based on a true story. And that is something that's really fascinating to me. And of course, The Exorcist is an example. We mentioned that earlier. But there's so many. The whole Conjuring series of films purport to be based on true events. The Amityville case, very infamously, is a really fascinating set of circumstances.
Yeah.
Supernatural.
One thing that we haven't discussed, though, are haunted objects. So I think you might have something to say on that.
Yeah, really, really interesting, because the commodification of belief, to quote a folklorist and one of my mentors, Diane Goldstein, a really interesting area too. If you hop on eBay right at this moment and search for haunted doll or Dybbuk box, you'll find dozens, maybe hundreds of items for sale that the listers claim are possessed or contain within them some sort of spirit. Often, not always, but often a malevolent one.
Yeah.
Most of those listings, due to eBay's policies, most of those listings include disclaimers that say this is only for entertainment purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes really interesting to try and sort of parse out, are we dealing with actual belief? Are we dealing with someone kind of playing with the idea of belief? Are we dealing just with the cynical manipulation of belief? Should we take them at their word? Is it really just for entertainment? There's so much going on in haunted objects. And one of the most fascinating questions, I think, and maybe the most obvious one surrounding the idea of, for example, a possessed doll, why would someone ever want to buy such an object?
Yeah, unless you're like a paranormal investigator, or this is kind of really your thing. Yeah,
right.
It's a little scary.
Right. It could be really scary. Some of the descriptions on these eBay items are scary. And again, I think there probably are really as many answers as there are people looking at those listings. For some people, it might just be a fun thing to freak out their friends with. For other people, they might be kind of skeptical and looking for proof in their own sort of personal quest. Or other people might be sort of professional investigators who are
and collectors of it.
Trying to find evidence in a more sort of systematic way. And there may be many other reasons as well beyond those. But it's a really, really interesting phenomenon. And Dybbuk boxes in particular are really interesting to me, because this is from Jewish tradition. Dybbuk boxes are felt to have their wooden containers in which a malevolent spirit has been trapped. And they're usually sealed up with wax. And the whole idea of trapping the malevolent spirit in the first place is to get it out of somebody's life. So the reasons for another person then wanting to take that into their life, really, really interesting to ask. And again, there's no one answer to questions like that. There are only multiplicity of answers, but it's really interesting to pursue.
Yeah. I think it is a fascinating topic. I have not had much experience with haunted objects.
Mm.
I am quite certain that some of the places that I have gone to have had them.
Oh, really?
But I personally don't do a lot with them. I wouldn't want to own one. But I appreciate that some people do.
Hmm.
Personally, like, not what I would want in, my life or my home.
Hmm.
But some people feel differently, and so I'm very fascinated by it.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting area of inquiry, and my students are usually pretty interested in that. And this past semester, we had an interesting class session where some of my students spent time looking up haunted items. I think I had the whole class do it. They looked up haunted items or haunted experiences for sale.
Wow.
Um, because how does the commodification of belief impact belief? Like,
Yeah.
is it sincere? Is it not? Is maybe there's no conflict between making money off of it and actually believing it to be true? Again, there's no singular answer to these kinds of questions, but a key thing about folklorists' approach to these phenomena, all of them, haunted objects and others, is that we always approach them from a place of respect.
Oh,
As I
absolutely.
think as I
Yeah.
said initially, we're never out to prove or to disprove. That's
Hmm.
not what folklorists or anthropologists are interested in. Rather, we're interested in understanding how this stuff fits into people's lives. Why is it meaningful to paranormal investigators to do paranormal investigations? How do the experiences that they have confirm their beliefs or disconfirm other beliefs? Or how do they relate to organized religious experience and belief? How do they impact their daily life? There are so many interesting questions to pursue there. But folklorists always begin at the level of the experience itself rather than making assumptions based on a person's cultural background or framework. This is due to the work of a really important folklorist named David Hufford, who wrote a book called The Terror That Comes in the Night, in which he kind of called prior scholars out for taking a more sort of cultural approach where they would never believe that a person had an experience. They would sort of instead say, well, you had a mundane experience, but you interpreted it as something else
Mm.
because your culture gave you that idea. Hufford's point is that we shouldn't do that when when thinking about the claims that people make about their own experiences. We should begin at the level of the experience and try to understand what happened. And if we can find ways of connecting that experience to someone's larger culture, that's great. But his important point was that oftentimes anomalous experiences are based on totally rational observations, which is
Absolutely.
really, really important
Absolutely. Yeah.
because so often these kinds of experiences are rejected out of hand. Now, he was careful to say that they are not always based on rational
Hmm.
experience. It's an irrational observation. It's entirely possible for a person to get drunk or do drugs and then have a crazy experience and misinterpret it.
Hmm. Hmm.
That misinterpretations happen in all areas of human life, not only the supernatural.
Yeah.
But Hufford's important point was that those types of experiences can be observed rationally and reported on rationally. So that's how folklorists tend to feel about it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much
Well, thank
for
you. It's been a really fun talk. Thanks for having me.
spend. I think everyone is going to love this, and um, I think that we may get some really great questions.
Oh, good.
So I can share some of them with you on Twitter. And,
Absolutely.
I will certainly keep notes and compile them. And maybe we can do this again and you can maybe speak to some points and
Yeah,
answer some questions that some people might have.
absolutely. I'd love to.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Jeffrey, and I look forward to
You're
speaking to you
welcome.
again.
Thank you again for having me.